This video classroom lesson is sponsored by Transmission Bench. Visit the transmissionbench.com store for the deluxe super kit, other parts, and even the video classroom lessons used during this project. Hello again. This is AODE 4R70W class, Part 1, Lesson 2. Before we begin work on the actual teardown, let me properly introduce the star of this class, and it's not me. The true star is this gorgeous version of the AODE transmission family. It's a 4R70W from a 2001 F-150 which had a 5.4 liter engine. And you may have noticed the transfer case adapter housing here, which means it's from a four-wheel drive version of the truck. If you're working on a two-wheel drive model, don't worry. Yours will have a slightly longer output shaft and an extension housing like this one. We'll discuss both versions. Our Celebrity has some problems. Even though it looks great on the outside, looks can be, and in this case are, deceiving. This transmission has been taken apart, cleaned of all dirt and transmission fluid, and then reassembled, but with original serious problems still intact. They were deliberately left for you and I to discover, discuss, and correct during this class. Speaking of appearance and cleaning, here's some advice. No matter how much caked on dirt and oil is on your transmission, don't clean it until after the teardown. Here's why. Water is the enemy of just about every part of an automatic transmission except for the aluminum case. It may seem like a good idea to take it to the car wash and hit it with high pressure water and detergent, but this will actually destroy some parts. The first casualty will be the manual lever position sensor here. The seals on it can handle any moisture or dirt nature can throw at it, but not an 800 plus PSI blast from a pressure washer. This will inject water past the shaft seal and later drive the computer crazy. It can also ruin the sensors and quickly rust the bare steel parts like the stator support and input shaft. Clean the case by itself later. Let's get started. The goals of this lesson are removal of the selector shaft lever, external sensors, extension or adapter housing, and the valve body, along with a few other parts after removing the pan. You'll need 8 and 10 millimeter sockets with extensions and ratchets, 10 and 15 millimeter wrenches, a medium-sized screwdriver, and a small box. Begin disassembly by using a 15 millimeter wrench to remove the retaining nut and selector shaft lever. Omit this step on earlier models with a non-removable lever located behind the manual lever position sensor. It can actually be installed two different ways, so note that it should be reinstalled pointing up. Put the lever and nut into the small parts box. Removal of the manual lever position sensor is next. Use an 8 millimeter socket and ratchet to remove these two bolts. Place the two bolts into the box. Slide the sensor off the shaft. Set it in this area on the bench. remove the 8mm headed bolt which fastens the output sensor. Twist and pull the sensor out. It's very important to remove this sensor now. It will be damaged if you forget, leave it in, and then attempt to remove the rear drivetrain section later. Once again, make sure you remove it now. Put the sensor and bolt into the box. If you are working on a 2004 or later model, it's a 4R70 or 75E and will have a turbine shaft speed sensor installed in the case here. Like the output sensor, it must be removed now to prevent damage to it. If your transmission is a two-wheel drive model with an extension housing and has a vehicle speed sensor here, use an 8mm socket, remove the retaining bolt, pull out the sensor and place them in the small parts box. If there is a plastic block-off plug, leave it as is. Removal of the adapter or extension housing is next. Use a 10mm wrench or socket and ratchet to remove the 6 bolts. Set the adapter or extension housing on the parts bench. The bolts go in the box. Set the gasket with the extension housing. I've turned the transmission upside down for access to the pan and valve body area. AODs used in cars have a flat pan with no hump. All 1994 and up four-wheel drives and 1996 and up two-wheel drive vehicles have this center sump. Use a 10mm socket, extension, and ratchet to remove the 14 pan bolts. Put the bolts with the other small parts. Lift the pan up and turn it over. There should be a circular shaped magnet here in this area. Regardless of how much black colored silt or other debris you may find, do not clean the pan at this time and set it on the parts bench. I use a wooden block to keep it level. The pan gasket material may be cork or the reusable rubber type like this one. If the pan gasket remained on the case, lift it off now and set it on the pan rail like so. Even if the gasket is a cork type, save it anyway. It's a good practice to save all the old gaskets and seals to compare with new ones later. Remove the filter by pulling it up and twisting it side to side. The rib seal may come out on the filter as you see here, or it may remain in the bore of the valve body. If so, use a medium-sized screwdriver to pry it out. Be careful not to gouge the soft aluminum with the tip. Place the filter in the pan. Removal of the wiring harness is next. You'll encounter one of two different styles. If you're working on a 1992 through 1997 model, it will have individual wires and connectors. Unclip each connector from the electronic pressure control or EPC solenoid, torque converter clutch or TCC solenoid, and the shift solenoid pack. Then disconnect the square temperature sensor located here and drape the wires over the side of the case. 1998 and later models use a flat plastic circuit board type assembly like this one. Use a screwdriver to gently pry it up in several areas to unsnap it from the individual components. Set it in this area on the bench. The last step in this lesson is to remove the valve body assembly. Of the 39 bolts which are visible here, only the 25 with an 8mm head go through the valve body and attach it to the case. Use an 8mm socket and remove them. The 10mm headed bolts should not be removed at this time. They are much shorter and fasten this steel plate and the shift solenoid pack to the casting. One of the bolts here also fastens the EPC retaining bracket. Put the 25 bolts and the bracket into the box. Use both hands to lift the valve body up. Turn the casting over. It's okay if the gasket between the case and separator plate tears. Sometimes the entire gasket will remain on the plate like this one has. Set the assembly into the pan on the parts bench. Finally, wear gloves and use a razor blade to remove any remaining gasket which may have stuck to the case. Work slowly and carefully to avoid gouging the aluminum. That's it for now. Meet me later in lesson 3 and we'll remove the remaining parts in the valve body area.